Morning tubos, how are you all doing? So today what I'm going to be doing is having a really in-depth review of the latest Star Wars film. I was going to do this the other day. I actually went and saw this Wednesday night, but I've been really seriously ill since then, so I haven't actually been able to bring myself to doing this video until now. I'm still not 100%, but I'm well enough to actually have a look at voicing my opinion about the film. So as soon as I saw the film at a midnight showing, so one of the first showings in the UK. I watched it as soon as I came home. I wrote down a couple sides of paper of different thoughts, feelings, my opinion, all that kind of stuff. So I want to be going over things like the story, the characters, everything that they've brought in, and what I generally feel about the film. So just a forewarning, I'm going to do a spoiler-free version at some point, but this is the spoiler version. Spoiler, spoiler, spoiler. There's loads and loads of spoilers in this film, so stop watching now unless you want to be told what happens in the story, or you already know, you've already seen it, so you know exactly what goes on. Or if you're just not that bothered about the story but want to know what I feel about it, obviously just carry on watching. If you don't want to know what happens in the film, do not watch this video. Wait for my other video to come out, because that one is not going to have any spoilers in. It's just going to be a general consensus of the film, whether to go see it or not, or anything and everything like that. I'm not going to say again, this version is the spoiler version. There is spoilers after spoilers after spoilers in this video, so don't go putting in the comments that I've spoiled the film for you, because I've given you plenty of warning that this is the spoiler version. So with that said, starting off with where should we start off? I think start off with how I feel about the film generally to begin with. I think the film was definitely a decent portrayal of Star Wars. It definitely fits in the Star Wars universe. It's a far better of the portrayal of Star Wars, the lore of Star Wars, everything like that, than episodes 1, 2 and 3, I personally believe. I didn't think those films were anything to do with Star Wars. I think they were a complete mishmash of stories, characters, everything just crammed in there to try and make up a story, to try and sell the brand name to people. I think a lot of us were disappointed with episodes 1, 2 and 3, which was a real shame really, because if they were done properly, I think they could have been a real critical part of the story, a real critical part of the whole architecture of Star Wars, and I think that they should have done far better than they were actually made. This one, so episode 7, I think actually does fit into the story. Now, all the sub-stories actually in this film I think make sense. There's a lot of stuff going on in there, but I think it all makes sense. You can actually see this all happening as well in the Star Wars lore, and I think it expands the Star Wars universe, it expands the Star Wars story really well. There's a lot of thought that's gone into it. Some things I think have been rushed and shouldn't have been put in this film. I think they should have been left until later on, but I'll go over what I think about those in a minute. But I think generally, yeah, this film's definitely worth going to see. It's definitely worth a watch. It's definitely part of the Star Wars lore, the Star Wars overarching of story. I think it's definitely part of it, and it's definitely worth a watch. Go and watch it. It is really good film. Still, I don't think as good as the original episodes 4, 5 and 6, but I grew up with those, so I don't think any Star Wars that I see now is going to be as good as those. But I would much rather this episode 7 be part of Star Wars than episode 1, 2 and 3. So that's just a general consensus of how I feel. So actually looking at the story in depth, I think the first half of the story, so everything on Jakar, everything up until they go to the bar where they meet Maz, or Moz is it? I think everything up to that point was really good, really well thought out, really well paced. I think that was a really important part of the story. It was all really well planned out, and I think everything up to that point was really well done. This is everything on Jakar, so all that bit. Finn portraying the First Order, the Stormtroopers, ending up on Shakar, meeting Rey, all that kind of stuff. Then them actually running into Han Solo as well, and his beginning part of the story. I think it was all really well thought out. Like, yeah, you could see Solo going back to smuggling, and I think it's really well thought out. Really well thought out part of the story. As soon as they reached the bar, though, I can't even remember what the planet was called, to be honest. I'm not going to bother looking it up. It's the jungle planet, which I'm going to talk about again. I'm going to talk about the planets in a minute as well. But I think everything after that bar on the jungle planet where they meet Maz, I think it is, everything after that was very, very rushed. It seemed like everything after that point was just trying to be crammed into the film to try and bring back nostalgia to people that have seen the original episodes. I think there was too much going on too quick after that point in the film. Everything was rushed. Everything seemed to be like the developers had a bit of a panic mode, and they just needed to cram everything in as quick as they could just to get the story moving on a little bit. It was a real shame after that point. I think that whole part of it, of going to that bar, meeting Maz, I don't know what her name is, I think that should have been expanded on far, far more than it was, because that seemed very, very rushed, that bit, and after that the story just seemed very, very rushed, which is a shame. The story after that as well felt like it reverted back to episode 4. It just seemed to be episode 4 all over again. So very quickly, the bar's Mos Eisley, then they end up having a big rebel fight at the bar. They all go back to the rebel base. They go and destroy the planet that's going around blowing up other planets, and nothing really seemed of importance after that point, and everything was really rushed. And I think to me it felt like the writers and the creators just thought, oh, God, we haven't left ourselves enough time for this film to cram everything in. We need to just get it all in there, get it all preparing for the episode 8, which I think a lot of the stuff should have been left. It should have been left for episode 8. It just seems to be like they've just crammed this all in. I mean, the First Order had a planet with a ray weapon in, a laser ray weapon in, and the rebels just seem to manage to blow it up within 10-15 minutes. Like, I remember in episode 4, I was a lot younger when I first watched it, but episode 4 there seemed to be actually importance, and it seemed to be quite a mission to get into a point where they were able to blow it up to save the universe. But with this one, it was just kind of like, it was just very, it just feels very rushed, and nothing really, it didn't really seem that important, to be honest, or that difficult to even do. I mean, they managed to get onto the world really quickly, sneak into a base really easily. All the rebel pilots managed to fly around, do whatever they wanted. A load of TIE fighters came, didn't really do a lot. Rebel pilots, with a Poe, he manages to get into the most critical part of the base without any real issue or problem, and managed to blow it up straight away, and that's it, job done, everyone's happy. Now, it was such a shame, really, because I think that whole section should have been massively expanded on. It should have been made a lot bigger. The importance of blowing that planet up should have been really emphasised a lot more than it was. I think personally they may have made a mistake doing that so early on in the story. That should have been a really, really important part of the story, I think, personally. Obviously, I don't know what's lined up in episodes 8 and 9, but it just seems to have been, they just seem to have copied episode 4 just to bring back the nostalgia value to all of us, to make us feel like we did when we watched episode 4, but obviously it's not going to happen in such a rush job like that. It's such a shame, really. I think they really, really undermine themselves there, really hurt themselves doing that. I don't think they needed to go down that route at all. It's a shame, really. They really could have expanded on that a lot more than they did. So, still talking about the story and everything, what happens in the story. The whole Han Solo death thing, I think, could have been done. I think it's a very important part of the story, which, yes, I can see definitely should have happened in these episodes, but I think that itself was very rushed as well and should have been done a lot better. Before I start talking about that though, I want to talk about Kylo Ren. So the bad guy, I think it's Kylo Ren. He obviously is Han Solo and Princess Leia's son even, and but I think that was revealed far too early in the story, far too early. Now they could have had another Darth Vader kind of point of the story with that, as Kylo. How I've been thinking about it the past couple of days, Kylo Ren, he never really seemed that bad after that point of finding out it was Solo's and Leia's son. He never really seemed that bad, to be honest. It was such a shame. They should have looked at exploring the route of talking about Kylo Ren was a Jedi being trained by Luke. He did murder all the Jedis that Luke was training. He turned to the dark side, all the rest of it. Completely stay with that storyline. However, actually revealed that he was Solo's and Leia's son right at the end as he's stabbing Solo. They should have made it seem like Kylo Ren actually killed Solo and Leia's son whilst they were doing all the Jedi training and everything. And that, I think, revealing Kylo Ren as he's stabbing Solo on the bridge to be his son would have been a far better way of doing the story. A far better way of doing it. It just felt to me like Kylo Ren started off pretty evil. He was going down the right route of being, this is the guy you don't want to mess with. He's an evil, nasty, horrible human being. You really don't want to mess with him. As soon as he takes off his mask, though, pretty much right at the beginning of the movie, and you discover that he's Solo's and Leia's son, he seems to take the evil out of him. It just doesn't seem to work after that point. The actor that actually played Kylo Ren as well, I don't think does the best of jobs, but I'm sure it's probably not his fault. It's more the fact that it's such a difficult character to portray, because he's meant to be seen as really evil but trying to stay away from the light side. But I think that whole portion of the story could have been done far better, which is a real shame. I think the whole Solo death thing as well was totally rushed. It shouldn't have been done so early on. I think maybe that would have been an episode 8 kind of story where he gets through. It feels rushed because he's gotten through so many big battles and so many big fights in the original series. He's had so much happen to him as well, and now he's just stabbed on the bridge. That's it. He doesn't really say anything, doesn't really do much. Stabbed on the bridge, falls off it, done. That's such a shame to end such a strong and important character of such a iconic series like that. It was such a shame, really, that they went down that way. But obviously, I don't know what's coming up in episode 8 and 9. Hopefully there's going to be reason for that, but I don't think there's probably going to be. It just seems like it's a shame that every part of the story after the whole bar scene was just kind of rushed, and that this is one of the stories that was completely rushed, which is a shame. So that's pretty much all the story I wanted to talk about. Going just very quickly about all the planets. This is another thing that I think they've tried to hit the nostalgia value with. Every single planet is exactly the same in the original series. So you've got obviously Jakar. It's exactly the same as Tatooine. It's a desert planet. It's a barren wasteland, horrible planet. There's nothing that really distinguishes in them though. But the both though. Oh yeah, Jakar's got a couple crashed Imperial destroyers and starships and all the rest of it. But other than that, you wouldn't know the difference at all. There's no real difference in character between the planets. The bar planet, obviously, they were looking at portraying Endor with all the jungle theme and all that. And then the Imperial planet, that was obviously hot. It was a snow planet, it was an ice planet. And it seems like they've tried to just chuck these planets in to try and recapture that feeling of nostalgia in terms of all the planets and everything that were in the original ones, which is a real shame. They could have really thought about some original ideas and places to place these settings on, but never mind. it's just another thing I felt has been kind of rushed in the writing and kind of just all crammed in, wanting to bring back all this nostalgia as quick as they can. But that actually does bring me on to the next point, which is about the characters and everything. All the characters, for some reason, nigh on every original character, apart from Lando Calrissian, which is the only one I can really think of, has been stuck in this episode. Some of them you only see very briefly. Luke, I completely understand, that's completely the right way to go. I think meeting Luke should have been done a little bit different, but yeah, Luke should have had a really, really small part in this episode where they eventually find him, which is done alright. However, every other character, C-3PO, R2-D2, Chewie, Leia, Solo, they're all there. Like, what I don't see what surprises there is now in episode 8 or 9. There's no one left to actually meet. I'm sure Calrissian may be in it, but he was never a major character in the original series. But they've stuck all these major characters right in the first episode, and that's it. Like, you have no secrets now, no surprises coming up. Everyone's there, everyone's already been seen, spoken to. One person's already died, so I'm not quite sure in terms of characters what they've got left to really bring out now. Episode 8 I know is going to be more about Luke, because they've actually met him now, and Luke didn't have any part in episode 7, which I think is completely right, because it's good to set the scene, it's good to set the actual story, where it is, what's happening, all that kind of stuff. Rushed or not, halfway through, but they've done that. They've set a good setting for the next films, so at least they've done that right. But in terms of characters, I don't think that they should have stuck everyone in so quickly, which is a bit of a shame, really. But never mind. But actually, looking at characters that are introduced in this film, first I want to talk about Finn. So Finn is obviously the guy that turns from the First Order. He is just what he says in the film is an institutionalized from birth, taken from his family, stormtrooper, trained and doesn't know any other way. This is his life, this is everything. The actual character of Finn, I do quite like. I know some people don't, because they think he's a little bit goofy, but that does kind of bring the humour back to Star Wars. Star Wars has always had that little side of humour, but I think Finn's personality and Finn's actual character development was rushed far too quickly. Far too quickly. I think if Rey and Finn were swapped in terms of character development, it would have been far better, and it would have made perfect sense. But talking about Finn first, for me, how does an institutionalized from birth, trained exactly in a uniform way, in a standardized way to every other stormtrooper, yeah, okay, you can see feelings of guilt, you can see about turning against your employer as such, because you know what they're doing isn't right. I can see all that, but I think you wouldn't be as goofy, or you wouldn't have such a strong personality straight off the bat. I think that would develop over time as you talk to more and more people, especially people like Solo. Like, I think his personality should have developed a lot slower throughout the film, rather than as soon as he turned to the rebel side, straight away he had this massive personality, massive goofy personality, took over the story, was the main character and all this. I think his personality should have developed a lot slower throughout the film, and by the end he was this goofy but likeable character that really knew what he had done was right, really thought the First Order was doing obviously really bad things, and wanted to fight and wanted to join the rebels. And I think that would have suited his character development far better than what actually happened in the film. Talking about Rey, I also really like Rey as a character. I think she works really well, but like I said, it seems like they've had their character personalities swapped, which is a real shame, because as a smuggler or a scavenger, looking after yourself, being left by your family on a desert planet, just fending for yourself, finding food, finding water, getting stuff to go and sell, you're naturally going to develop quite a loner, quite a strong personality of taking no shit from anyone. just generally getting the job done, having quite a strong personality, which Rey didn't have. Rey, to begin with, was a very, very quiet character, very unsure character, like wasn't very strong at all. As a person that's meant to be looking after herself on a planet, I personally, with a personality with that, like that, she wouldn't have survived, I don't think. So I think if her character was really strong to begin with, but then mellowed out throughout the film, that would have suited her far better, because right at the end, that's where her true personality started coming through, and that's when Rey became really likeable, was right near the end of the film. I think that should have been looked at a lot better than just having a really quiet character coming out. I think she should have been a really strong, really boisterous character, and then slowly mellowed out as she started to realise things about the Force, about the light side, that actually people do need help and all the rest of it. I think that would have suited her far, far better. Talking about Kylo Ren, I know I very quickly already mentioned him, but Kylo Ren, I think, could have been a lot more evil, and I think the down point of that was him revealing who he was and taking off his mask and revealing that he was just a general human character. I think that was done far too early, and it wasn't really thought about very well. After that point, he didn't really seem that bad, to be honest, at all. It's such a shame, really. Like, I really wanted to have a character like what Darth Vader used to make me feel like every time you knew Darth Vader came on the screen, you were absolute crapping your pants, because you know shit is just about to go down, because this guy takes no shit and he is going to get the job done, and it doesn't matter how many people he kills. Kylo Ren just doesn't feel like that at all. He just feels like he's kind of being pushed into this, and that's it. He's just there now, so may as well plod along with it. It just kind of seems to bimble along, not really be that evil. It's such a shame, really, because they really needed to have a really strong, nasty, horrible character again, just to bring that emphasis of light and dark. But I don't think they've done it really well with him. Hopefully that will improve in the next episodes, but obviously we shall have to wait and see for that. Talking about the Supreme Leader, I think that's a very weak character so far. Very, very weak. I know he's not had a major part to play in it, but that's a very weak character. They could have also come up with a far better name than Supreme Leader. That may be his title, but that seems like quite a cop-out to me, to be honest. Just calling something a Supreme Leader and that's it. Again, I think he was introduced way too early into the story, though, and this immediately took quite a lot of the evil emphasis off Kylo Ren, which is another reason why he doesn't feel that evil. He was the Supreme Leader. I don't think should have been introduced really at all in this film, but if he was to be introduced, it would have been right at the end, literally like what the Empire was in the original episodes. You didn't meet that guy right until the end, and because of that, Darth Vader was the bad guy until that point. Obviously, he was still the bad guy afterwards, but you kind of then saw why he was being bad, who was controlling him, who was the actual boss. I think doing the Supreme Leader so early on has actually ruined Kylo Ren as a character and the whole evilness. But we should see what actually happens, because I think we actually meet him in the next episode. So we'll have to see what happens there. Very quickly, that's pretty much all I want to say about the film, but very quickly, I also thought a lot of the battles were rushed. They didn't seem to have a lot of emphasis or real feeling of suspense or intrigue in them, which is a real shame. I really enjoy the Star Wars battles, but none of them felt like they really had anything going for them, which is a shame. Hopefully they improve on that in the next episodes and make some good, really long, important battles like the Battle of Hoth, all that kind of stuff. But even the Battle of Endor in episode 6, that felt like it had a lot more importance and significance than any of the battles in episode 7 did, so hopefully they'll get a look at that as well. But that's it. That's really much it. Obviously the only thing that I can say now as well is how they met Luke right at the end. I think that should have been done a little bit different, but obviously they wanted to leave it on a cliffhanger, which is good. So I'm glad that they literally introduced him for not even a minute. I think that was a really well played by them. I don't think they should have done it any other way, really. But that is it. I hope you've enjoyed this little, well, I say little, it's almost 25 minutes long, but this in-depth insight into what my thoughts, my feelings of the Star Wars film are. I hope you've enjoyed the gameplay footage of the Battle of Jakar as well from Star Wars Battlefront. I thought I'd just put that in because everyone's seen the trailers now. I thought I'd just put some gameplay footage in there, to be honest, because this is primarily a gaming channel anyway, so I'm sure some of you would rather watch a bit of gaming than a trailer over and over again. But I hope you've enjoyed the video, guys. Let me know what you thought of the film as well. Let me know in the comments below if you've seen it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Let's get a bit of a discussion going, a debate going. Obviously don't be a dick, but everyone's got their own personal opinions. I'd love to know what yours is. Hopefully you do agree with me on some stuff. Hope you probably don't. You probably disagree with me on some stuff, but that's what makes debates and discussions like this kind of thing fun. So please leave me a comment. Leave me a like if you've enjoyed the video as well. If you want to see more of these kind of personal opinion videos or reaction videos, that kind of thing, let me know, because I love doing them. They're actually quite good fun, just voicing my opinion on stuff. I'm really sorry I've actually gone on for so long. I did not expect to be going on for almost half an hour. That's a ridiculous amount of stuff to be going on about. Did not think my thoughts would even fill 10 minutes, to be honest, but obviously that was wrong. But like I said, I hope you've enjoyed the video, guys. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening as well. If you have liked it, if you could leave me a like, subscribe, all that lovely fan-booby-tastic stuff, that would be fantastic of you, and I'll love you forever. But let's get a bit of a discussion going on. We've only got 500 and I think it's 27 days to wait until episode 8, so not long. But let me know what you thought. Thank you for watching, guys, and as always, I will catch you in the next one.